Hello and welcome to Muse for You. This is John, your Adobe Muse instructor, and in today's video we're going to be going over scroll effects in Adobe Muse. I'm going to try to make this just one video, but there's going to be quite a bit of information. If I find that the video goes on too long, I might cut it up into two videos. But either way, it's very important that you get this part of Adobe Muse because scroll effects adds a lot of interest and a lot of creativity to your websites. You can have things moving and add motion to your website, which a lot of web designers and developers are using these days with their website. So let's go ahead and begin. I've actually created a sample site to show you some scroll effects. This is it here, and if I hit Command-Shift-E, I'll go ahead and go through the different scroll effects that I've added to this website. So the first one is this menu here. If I scroll down the page, we see the menu sticks to the top of the browser and stays there. The next scroll effect is this icon here. It scrolls from left to right. And then we have this fixed background scroll effect. You might have heard it in terms of parallax scrolling, where one object is moving faster or slower than another. That kind of creates what's called a parallax effect. For these videos, I'm just going to call them scroll effects. If parallax effect is easier for you to kind of understand, or if you've heard more about parallax and you want to relate this to parallax, that's fine too. But I'm going to stick to scroll effects for these videos. So this moves in from left to right. So this is a fixed background scroll effect where the image stays in place and the website keeps moving. And then we have this icon here from the right to the left. And then it stops there, and then we have another fixed background scroll effect. And then we have this icon coming in from the left to the right, and we have another fixed background scroll effect. Alright, so that's pretty much it. And I'm going to show you exactly how I did all of this, and I'm going to try to go through this as quickly as I can, but again, it's going to be quite a bit of information. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm actually going to take off the motion off this menu so I can show you exactly what I did. And if we hit Command-Shift-E, we now see that the menu scrolls with the rest of the site. Now, one thing that it's very important, you might even want to take note on this, and if you want to take notes on this video, that's fine too, because there's different things that go into scroll effects. But basically, this website is scrolling at a speed of 1. So remember that, a speed of 1. If something's not moving, it's scrolling at a speed of 0. Right now, this website is at a speed of 1, the up and down motion. So because we didn't set a scroll motion to this menu, it's scrolling by default with the rest of the site, which is at a speed of 1. And that's why it doesn't stick, or it just kind of goes up with the rest of the site. These different scroll effects have different scroll effects added to them, so that's why they scroll differently. But if you didn't have any scroll effects at all to your website, the scroll speed would be 1. Would be 1. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and add a scroll effect to this menu. So the first thing I do, with any element that you want to add a scroll effect to, you select it. So I click on it once, excuse me. And then I go to right over here to the right. Here we have our scroll effects panel. And we just kind of click on it. It says effects and scroll effects. So we click that once. And then here we have the scroll effects. Oops, right here. We have 4 different buttons here. The first one is motion. The second one is opacity, the third one is slideshow, and the fourth one is edge animate. So you can add scroll effects in those 4 different ways. For these videos, or for this video, we're just going to work with motion scroll effect. So if I want to add a scroll effect to an element, I just click on motion. And right away I get 5 different options. I can scroll up or down, vertically, and I can pick the speed that I want to scroll at. I can scroll left or right, horizontally, and I can pick that speed. And This here, and if you want to write this down, it's really important to note, it's called the key position. And I'll explain that to you in a second. And then we have the final motion, which is what happens after the initial motion is done. So you can go, vertically up or down and at a certain scroll speed, or you can go horizontally left or right at a certain scroll speed. Excuse me. So what I want to happen with this menu is to initially scroll at a speed of 1, and once the top of the menu hits the top of the browser, to stop. Okay, and that's going to create the effect of the menu scrolling and then sticking to the top of the browser. Now, this is where key position is crucial. When you click on an element and you add a scroll or motion to it, a scroll effect, you get this little, what's called, this little, if I can select it. Okay, yeah, here we go. You get this, what's called a key position, and the key position gets added to the top of your element, and this is what's going to control when your element starts to scroll in a certain way. When this key position hits the top of the browser, that's when your scroll effect is going to start. So I'll give you an example. Let's say, so right here, where this blue ends and this gray begins, that's the top of your browser, or the top of the page, I should say. So if I put this key position right here to the top of the site, and I set the initial scroll speed vertically to 1, I don't want this menu to move left or right, so I leave that to 0. And the key position is at -36, and it changes. You notice as I change it here, it changes here, -23. So I'm going to put it back to -36. And then the final motion, I don't want it to scroll at all. I want this menu to not move. So the final motion is going to be 0. It's not going to have any scrolling at all. So basically what's going to happen is, because this key position is already at the top of the browser, and there's no scroll space here at the top of the browser, this menu is not going to move at all. And I'll show you. So if I hit Command-Shift-E and I start scrolling, that menu stays right there. Okay? Because we have the key position already at the top of the browser, and so once the key position hits the top of the browser, which is it's already there, the final motion kicks in, and the final motion is 0. So this menu stays just as it is. Now, what I want to happen is I want the menu to stick to the top of the browser. So I actually want it to scroll this little bit, which is 36 pixels. I know that because the key position is at -36, okay, from the menu element. Okay, so to do that, what I'm going to do is drag this key position right to the top of the element, to the menu. So the key position is 0, okay? So it says 0 there, and this guideline here, that's 0 pixels. So yeah, the key position is now 0. So what's going to happen is this menu is going to scroll at a speed of 1, and once it hits the key position, which is at 0, so this space here is -36. It's kind of a little more, not sure why it's -36, but it's a little more space here. So yeah, what's going to happen is this menu is going to scroll at a speed of 1. It's going to hit the key position, and the final motion is going to be at 0. So that's going to create the desired effect. So I'm going to hit Command-Shift-E, and I'm going to scrolling, and bam, the menu sticks to the top. Okay, pretty cool effect. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and continue with the rest of the scroll effects just so we get some practice. All right, so now for this one, I'm going to take the scroll motion off. And as you can see, now it just scrolls at a speed of 1 with the rest of the site. This icon here is no longer coming in from left to right, it's just scrolling up and down. So to add scroll effects, again, we click the element, we click motion, and here what's happening, all right, so we're scrolling at a speed of 1 vertically and a speed of 1 horizontally. So this icon or element is moving with the rest of the site, and it's also moving in from left to right. And when this key position hits the top of the browser, that's when this element is going to start coming in. Okay, so right when we hit kind of like near the bottom of this Y here, or like, yeah, close to the bottom of the Y, a little bit higher, this element is going to start coming in from left to right. All right, and then once it reaches the final motion, so okay, yeah, this is where I kind of have to think a little bit. So it's going to hit the top of the browser. It's going to start scrolling. Oh yeah, and so right now this is when it reaches this position on the site, the final motion kicks in, and then the final motion is going to scroll vertically at a speed of 1. It's not going to scroll horizontal, left or right at all. It's just going to scroll vertically once it hits the current position where it's at. So let's preview that in the browser. I'm going to hit Command-Shift-E, and I'm going to scroll. So, okay, my apologies, I explained that a little bit off. So what's going to happen is this is going to start scrolling immediately. Once you start scrolling, and once this hits the top of the browser, this key position, that's when it's going to kick into the final motion. So once the key position is here, this element is going to be in its final position, and then the final motion is going to kick in. So let's see that again. So I'm scrolling, and already in the background, this element is working. You just don't see it. And so we're scrolling, and right when we get to the end of that Y, you can see the Y is kind of right there. Bam, it stops. And then the final motion kicks in, and it scrolls at a speed of 1 with the rest of the website. Okay? So basically, Muse does all the math and says, hey, we have to make this element come in at a certain speed in order for the final position to be exact when that key position hits the top of the browser. And then it kicks into the final motion and it goes up. Okay? So let's go to the next one and get more practice. All right, so I'm going to click here. So with this one, what I did is I created a rectangle. I added an image to the rectangle. And with images and rectangles, there's actually another way to add scroll effects to them, because you're adding the scroll effect to the image that's inside the rectangle. And what you do is you click on the rectangle with the image in it. You go to Fill, and in Fill, there's the scroll option. So I'm going to click on Scroll, and I'm going to select Motion, and that's the motion. And this is the motion for the image inside the rectangle. And all I did was set the motion all to 0. So this image is not going to move at all. It's not going to move up or down initially, left or right. And in this sense, the key position doesn't matter because the image isn't moving at all. So the image is staying still and the site is moving, and that's why you can see more of the image. So if we hit Command-Shift-E and we preview this, the image is now not moving at all, and you can see the whole image as you scroll. Okay, so now I'm going to go on to this one. This element is coming in from the right to the left, so it's going to start scrolling, and once the key position hits kind of the middle of this blue, it's going to end up here in this final this final position, and then the final position is going to be a 1, so it's going to scroll with the rest of the website. So the initial motion is going to scroll with the site at a vertical speed of 1, and it's going to come in from the left. We selected this arrow here that says from right to the left, and it's going to scroll at a speed of 1. Once it hits the top of the browser, it's going to hit the final position, and it's going to scroll with the rest of the website. So if I hit Command-Shift-E, okay, so this element is already calculated by Muse to start coming in around there, because it knows that it needs to calculate everything with the key position. So once it gets kind of to the middle of the blue up here, it's going to hit the final position, and now it's at the final position, and it's going to scroll at a speed of 1. All right. And for this image, we did the same thing. We just made a rectangle, filled it with an image. We go to Fill, Scroll, select Motion, and set it all to 0. So now that image does not move at all and has that cool scroll effect. All right, now we have this icon here. If we click it, again, it's the final motion is going to be right when the key position is kind of halfway in between this blue rectangle. And again, what we did is we set an initial motion to 1. We made it go from left to right, so we selected the left to right arrow. We set a scroll speed of 1, and the final motion we set to scroll at a speed of 1, and we don't want it to move left or right. So we select it, and again, once this key position hits the top of the browser, the element is going to be in its final motion, and it's going to scroll with the rest of the website. So if I hit Command-Shift-E to preview in the browser, this element now comes in from left to right. We keep scrolling, and right when we get to halfway, like with this blue, it's going to hit the final motion, you see? So this is the top of the browser. You can kind of picture the key position being right there. And so we're going, and bam, the key position. So just picture the key position. It's kind of invisible, and you can picture it for all of them. The key position is like right here, and bam, it stops there. For this one, the key position is right there, and bam, it stops. So picture like an invisible key position right there. And once that key position hits the top of the browser, the scrolling effect stops, and then the final motion kicks in. So before the key position kicks in, we have an initial motion, then the key position hits the top of the browser, and then we have a final motion. Final motion. All right, same thing here. Picture the key position, and bam, it hits the top, and it kicks into the final motion. The final motion is at a vertical speed of 1, so it's going to scroll with the rest of the site. And for this image, again, we had a fixed image scroll effect, so we go to Fill, Scroll, click Motion, set it to 0, 0, 0, 0. Command-Shift-E to preview in the browser, and voila. We now have all our scroll effects there. So again, key position is very key. Just picture kind of an invisible key position. Once it hits, before the key position hits the top of the browser, you have an initial motion of either up or down, left or right. And again, it's just, these buttons, up, down, left, right, up, down, left, right, or, left to right, right to left, up, down, and yeah, down, up, things like that. Yeah, once you play with it, you kind of get the feel for how those work a little bit more. All right, so we have an initial motion, key position hits the top of the browser, then we have a final position that kicks in, that's set to a vertical speed of 1. This image has no scroll, so it stays put. Right to left at a speed of 1. Key position hits the top of the browser, stops. Then the final motion is at a vertical scroll speed of 1. All right, initial motion, left, up and down 1, left to right 1. Then the key position hits the top of the browser, stops, final motion kicks in. It's at a scroll speed of 1, a vertical scroll speed of 1, so it keeps moving. And this is set to a scroll speed of 0, this image, so it doesn't move, and same with this one. All right, so hopefully that all made sense. If you have any questions, please ask. This is probably the more complicated side of Adobe Muse, but once you really master this part or really learn it really well, your websites will just take on a whole new dimension, and you can really add a lot of interesting effects and really wow your viewers and anyone going to your website. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.